Hey everyone, this is Josh from the Gaming Manual. This time, we are taking a look at Nintendo Power, Volume 130 from March 2000. Let's start with the cover. It has Mewtwo and Pikachu in an epic 3D looking battle that still somehow has the classic view from behind your Pokemon. This cover was meant to be eye-catching, and it worked. Plus, there was a lot of hype for this game, as it was the first time you could really see your Pokemon fight in a real battle. On this page, we have an ad from Wal-Mart, but what's really noteworthy is that over half the games are Pokemon games. That's crazy. Table of contents. Well, if the cover didn't give it away, this page sure will. As you can see, this issue of Nintendo Power is heavily aimed towards not just Pokemon Stadium, but the fans in general. We will see it throughout this magazine, but we also see Perfect Dark, Ogre Battle 64, and also this awards nomination, but we'll talk about that more later. Player's Pulse. Here, we have letters to the editor, and one of the things that always stood out to me was the volume of letters that were printed and answered compared to other gaming magazines. And here are the power charts, or more simply put, the top 10 or 20 games, such as Zelda, GoldenEye, Smash Bros, Pokemon Snap, and some wrestling games. Some more questionable than others on this list. Pokemon holds 3 of the top 5 for the Game Boy. Plus, Link's Awakening is at number 3, which is my personal favorite Zelda game, and it even got a remake for the Nintendo Switch. At the very bottom, we have the most wanted list. And, big surprise, Pokemon Stadium is at the top of the list. Pokemon Stadium. The main headline for this magazine with 12 pages. There is information on everything, including a Pokemon type chart that is wrong. Or, what? Yeah, take a look. Right there, if you look at that chart. It's not anything major, it's just a lot of little things. But if you look at an example here, we'll see that the electric type is shown to be weak to ground, which is correct. But it also shows that electricity does no damage to ground or rock. Only ground is immune to damage. Rock resists it. They also talk about movesets, stats, stat training, status moves, and what could for the first time be competitive Pokemon. Here you can see different leagues or cups with different formats. There's also the level cap or unique Pokemon restrictions. Continuing on, we can see recommended rental Pokemon. I cannot express how crazy this is, but the game was made with the idea of all rental Pokemon being equal in terms of status moves, movesets, and base stats. So there really is a lot of depth to this game when it comes to creating a team just using rental Pokemon. Just because a Pokemon is fully evolved does not mean that it's the strongest. Alakazam and Kadabra are a perfect example of this, where the rented Alakazam does not have Psychic, the best move for it, but instead, Kadabra has this move as well as Recover, making it the stronger pick. Lastly, we can see other modes for the game, such as Gym, Elite Four, and even the mini-games that turn out that are quite fun to play and has a Mario Party feel to them. And look at that, an ad for KB Toys for those of you old enough to remember. And with a Nintendo 64 priced at $99.99? Personally, I like the smoke and ice colors myself, but Jason said that he's more of a fan of the smoke and fire. Classified information, which is just a creative way to say cheat codes. But calling it classified makes it feel more special. It's only a couple of pages, and only from the Nintendo systems, which really limits how much information can be provided. Perfect Dark. This was a game with a lot of expectations. GoldenEye was a huge success, and both having been made by Rareware, Perfect Dark had a lot to live up to. And this was back before you could simply fix an issue or bug. After the release, with a patch update. We get a glimpse into what we can expect from this game. Over the next few pages, we'll see parts of the story, graphics, and some of the guns. But one thing that I do recall from my childhood is that most of my friends preferred Perfect Dark over GoldenEye for its multiplayer. Looking back at this game, I can see why the multiplayer was so much fun. Look at that, they're dual-wielding guns. And if I remember correctly, that picture below, it was the view from a gun called the Farsight. It had the ability to shoot through walls using X-ray vision. And no, I do not know the name of that gun. I just read it in the sentence here next to the picture. Ogre Battle 64. Aside from the updated graphics, this game looked a lot like Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen on the Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1, which is a fantastic tactical military game, and a personal favorite when it comes to the genre. Sadly, there hasn't been another game like this in a while, but the unique way that battles are done makes creating a team the most fun part. When I heard about this game, I always thought that there'd be a PS1 version, but unfortunately, it never happened. Tomb Raider for Game Boy Color. When I first heard of this game, I thought it was a joke from a friend. And then, I saw the review. It did not help it. I don't know why, but it just doesn't look right. Lore looks a bit too lengthy, but that's to be expected, I suppose. They were trying to put a PlayStation game onto a Game Boy. Pokecenter. This was around the time that Pokemon went from just being a fad to a franchise. The next few pages are all dedicated to anything Pokemon. Q&A has a nice question about Charizard, regarding the fact that in Red and Blue, it had wings, but for some reason, it wasn't able to learn the HM move Fly. That is a bit odd, but in Pokemon Yellow and Forward, it was able to learn the move Fly. Strange. Ask the Professor helps those that struggled in the beginning of Yellow, or finding all the Pokemon in Pokemon Snap. There is even a comic based on the show where Ash gets his Thunder Badge. Here, there is a team that was made by a reader that got a shout out because the editors thought it was a great team. But when I look at it, I see a lot of flaws. Granted, I know a lot more now than I did back then, but running a team that have a lot of shared weaknesses and rest before Sleep Talk was around isn't the best idea. Speaking of, if you have any ideas for a Pokemon Stadium team, feel free to post them in the comments below, and we can try them in a future video. Do you remember that awards nominations I mentioned at the beginning? Well, there's a lot of topics, but one common theme is that everything feels very limited. I know it's all related to Nintendo systems, mainly the Nintendo 64, but it feels like some of these games are being used over and over again. Counselor's Corner, the ones that didn't die from Friday the 13th. This was a place to get help on difficult parts, or just to get past those difficulty spikes that littered these games during this time, because companies didn't want you beating the game during a single rental period. Harvest Moon has insight on each of the girls that you can marry, so you can ensure that you get to marry the one that you want. As for Jet Force Gemini, it has advice for getting past the confusing parts that kept tripping up the gamers. Since YouTube wasn't around, you couldn't simply go and watch a video how to get past it. They even answered questions about Mario Party 2. Blaster Master. This was a great game on the Nintendo, and the port for the Game Boy Color lets you play the game on the go. Thankfully, this guide provides a layout of the area, because that is the one thing lacking from this game. It'll help you from getting lost and from backtracking to the same place over and over again, when you're simply trying to pass through Zone 2, which acts as a center hub for most of the game. Which color are you? This looks as dumb as it sounds. You can already see the different colors on the left-hand side, and the answers are color-coded, so just pick the answer to the color of the system you want. The next page makes it worse, talking about which games are for which color, plus some random personality facts for each one. Who cares, just pick your favorite color. At the end, we have the overall scores for games, which, of course, should be taken with a grain of salt. as we have nothing lower than a score of 6. But at least they include each person's score from the staff. This wasn't common when games got scored, and it was nice to see the range that created the average, as you could see the wide range that some games had, while others were pretty close. Thanks for joining us in this review of Nintendo Power. This is Josh from the Gaming Manual, and thanks again for watching. If you enjoy content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.